evenly over the top of the anterior surface of your eye. Now there should be a mechanism of draining this also.
Yeah.
So what you would find is that at the medial edge of your upper eyelid and the lower eyelid, you would find a small holes there. So if you turn your lid and put some light, you would find out that on the medial aspect of both upper and lower lid, there are two small holes. One on the upper eyelid, the other in the lower eyelid, and these are called punctas. And these punctas are going to continue as the caniculi. The caniculi are the lacrimal caniculus are small ducts which are opening into the lacrimal sac, and the lacrimal sac through the nasolacrimal duct is going to open into the inferior meatus of the nose. Now what happens is that when you close your eyes, your punctas are going to dip into the lacrimal sac, into the conjunctival sac. And when you close your eyes tightly, there is a vacuum in the lacrimal sac which is going to pull the fluid into the caniculi and then into the nasolacrimal duct, and then it goes into the inferior meatus of the eye. So the way it is going to work is that when you are going to close your eyes tightly, your punctas are going to dip into the conjunctival sac, suck the fluid into the caniculi, into the lacrimal sac, and then through the nasolacrimal duct into the inferior meatus of the nose. And that's why when you put up the eye drops in your eye, you can feel them in your nasopharynx. Why you can feel them? Because they are going to pass through the punctures into the caniculi, into the lacrimal sac, and then through the nasolacrimal duct into the inferior meatus of and if you have, any infections, these infections in the nose can easily travel through the nasolacrimal duct into the eye and can result in conjunctivitis. So rhinitis happening, because of a viral infection in the nose, the infection can travel through the nasolacrimal duct in through the punctus into the eye, leading to conjunctivitis. So this is a track through which the infections can pass also, and the fluid needs to drain into also. But early on in the life, when the child is born, the punctas are usually not open. So when the child is born, the punctas are closed, and when the child is going to cry, the tears are going to drip off the lid margins and come over the top of the cheeks, because the punctas are not open. The fluid is not going into the nasolacrimal duct. So that's why when the child is born, we usually ask the mothers that when the child is sucking the breast or is feeding, you keep on putting your hand on the side of the eye on the nose and put pressure there so that the punctus can be opened up. And when he's sucking, there are suction forces created, and then you are putting pressure over the punctus so that punctus get opened up and the nasolacrimal duct and everything is patent, so that the fluid starts to go down the nasolacrimal duct. But the condition where you have obstruction of the nasolacrimal system and the tears overflow the margin is called epiphora. So when you hear the term epiphora, it means that there is an obstruction to the nasolacrimal system, and the tears are not overproduced. They are just because there is obstruction, they are overcoming the margins of the lid and coming over the cheek. So that condition is called epiphora. So you can see it here. If there is an obstruction of the duct, then we call it dacrostenosis. And if there is an inflammation of the lacrimal sac or the caniculi, that is called dacrocystitis. So if you use these terms, dacrostenosis or dacrocystitis, you should know. Stenosis means obstruction. So if there is any obstruction in the nasolacrimal system, you would hear the term dacrostenosis. And if there is inflammation and infection of the lacrimal sac, then you would have a bulging on the medial side of the eye, and that is called dacrocystitis. normally when you have any obstruction in the caniculi or the duct, we do a procedure which is called probing. We put up a probe inside the, very fine probes inside the punctures and try to open up the obstruction. So in children you would find that this procedure is commonly done, the probing is done to open up the duct system. If there is a complete obstruction of the nasolacrimal duct, then probably you would need to do a procedure which is called decrocystorhinoplasty. That means you are going to create a nasolacrimal duct system so that there is to overcome the obstruction. Why do you need to have this system? Why do you need to have the duct system here?
Because there is always continuous secretion.
Otherwise you would, the tear film is going to overcome all the time and it's going to come over the top of your eyes. You don't want to cry all the time. And that would also, if there is obstruction, that would lead to infection. And infections of the eye can happen because of obstruction. So you don't need an obstructed system. You need a complete drainage pipe which is not choked. So that's why you need to have an open duct system here. Yes. Okay, epiphora is just over, whenever the tear film is going to go over the lid margins, over your cheek, because of the obstruction. The term is called epiphora. But that is not obstruction, that's just overfilling of the tears over your lid margins because of the obstruction. Not because of crying. You can have excessive crying and that could also lead to tears coming over your cheek, but that is not epiphora. Your duct system is fine, but the problem is that you're producing excessive tears. Here you are not producing excessive tears, but they are still going over the top of your lids because of the obstruction, and that is called epiphora. Yes?
What happens when you close the eyelids? Where does it dip and how does it
So these are the punctures here. So when you are going to close your eyes, and they are on the inner aspect of your lids. So when you are going to close your eyes, they are going to dip into the conjunctival sac. And that would produce us, because this is a closed space then, it would produce a suction-like effect into the lacrimal sac, and that would pull the fluid into the nasolacrimal duct. So that's also important in old patients, because in old patients sometimes you have eversion of the lids, which is called the ectropion. And now if you have eversion of the lids, the punctures are not dipping into the conjunctival sac. Okay? Or you have the other problem, which is the entropion, where their lids are inverted, and now your lashes are going to affect your cornea. So the lids, the two important things, the other two important things which are important for the lids is ectropion and entropion. Ectropion is eversion of the lids, and entropion is inversion of the lids.
What will happen if you eversion?
So if you have eversion, your punctures are now everted, they are not dipping into the, even when you are closing your eye, they are not dipping into the conjunctival sac. So you are unable to drain the fluid then. And then in entropion, when you have excessive inversion of your lids, your lashes are going to affect the cornea, because they would actually abrase against the cornea, which you don't want also. So both conditions, ectropion and entropion, are not good. Lid inversion and lid eversion. Yes?
The drainage process will not take place
If you have
unless we close our eyes.
Yeah, so normally you are blinking all the time. So you are basically putting your lids in. Okay?
The inversion affects the cornea or the eversion?
Inversion, entropion would affect the cornea.
Cornea.
Yeah. So here are some, examples. What you can see in this picture. We have put a dye inside this eye, and you can see the dye is not coming out from this nostril. However, you can see that the dye coming out from this nostril. So there is no obstruction in this side, but there is an obstruction in this side, because the dye is still there. It is not coming out from the nasolacrimal duct into there. into the nose. So this is a common way to see how, if there is an obstruction or not. So this is a nasolacrimal duct obstruction. So this is a dacrostenosis. And here you can see an inflammation of the lacrimal sac. And this is the dacrocystitis.
Doctor,
Yes.
what's the connection between the eye and the left?
This, you have put up a fluorescent dye in both the eyes.
Huh?
So here
Okay,
it has been drained, and here there is no drainage. Okay. So now we are going to talk about we have done the lids, we have done the interior part of the eye, we also did talk about the lacrimal apparatus. Now we are going to talk about the eyeball itself. And we know that there are three layers of the eyeball. The outermost is called the sclera. So this outermost layer which you see is the sclera. And it forms the fifth-sixth of a globe. So if you have a complete globe, the 5 parts of that globe, the posterior 5 parts of that globe are going to be formed by sclera. The interior 1/6 of the globe, which is the most convex part, is going to be formed by the cornea. So you can see the cornea is going to form the 1/6 of the most exterior part of the eye, and the posterior 5/6 of it is going to be formed by sclera. Sclera is mainly, it's an opaque layer, so it's an opaque area. So that's why the anterior part you see white, it's because it is opaque. It is mainly formed by collagen fibers. Cornea is also formed by collagen fibers. So you would think why cornea is transparent and why the sclera is opaque, although both are formed by the collagen fibers. The reason for that is the orientation of the collagen fibers. So the orientation of the collagen fibers within the cornea is regularly organized, and that results in the transparency of the cornea. While the collagen fibers in the sclera are disorganized, and as a result they cause the opacity of the sclera. Plus the fluid inside the amount of fluid inside the cornea is much less as compared to the sclera. That also results in the transparency of the cornea. In certain collagen diseases, congenital diseases, you would have very thin sclera, loose sclera, and that
Marfan syndrome. Marfan syndrome.
Yes, Marfan syndrome is one of the conditions where you have the collagen is not produced well, and then you would see the sclera, which are loose sclera, because of the thinning of the sclera, and mainly sclera is formed by the collagen fibers. Okay, the next layer below the sclera is the choroid, and you can see this choroid is also called the uveal tract because it is formed by 3 things. The posterior part is formed, which is just next to the sclera, is choroid, and as we go anteriorly, this choroid is going to give rise to ciliary body, and then anterior to the ciliary body is the iris. So there are 3 things which form the uveal tract: choroid, the ciliary body, and the third one is the iris. And iris is a diaphragm which is going to which is present between the lens and the cornea, and within the iris there is a small hole which is called the pupil. Now choroid is a vascular layer, so it is very rich in blood vessels, and it is also a pigmented layer. So it has pigmented epithelium, and it is richly vascular. The outer part of the choroid has large blood vessels, and these large blood vessels are going to supply the sclera also. The inner part of the choroid has capillary network, choroidal capillary network, and this choroidal capillary network is going to provide the nourishment to the inner aspect of the outer aspect of the retina, which is the pigment epithelium. So the pigment epithelium or pigment retina is supplied by the choroidal capillary network, while the inner part of the retina, which is the neurosensory retina, is supplied by the central retinal artery, which is a branch of the ophthalmic artery. So the outer part of the retina, which is the pigment epithelium, is supplied by the choroidal capillary network. Now, as we go forward from the choroid is going to lead into this body, which is called the ciliary body, and the ciliary body has a ciliary muscle, and this ciliary muscle, you are seeing the ciliary body in a cross section here. So it is looking more like a triangle shaped structure, but it is not triangular shaped structure, it is more of a circular structure. It's all around the eye. So it's a circular structure, but in a cross section it looks like a triangular structure. It has a muscle which is called the ciliary muscle. When the ciliary muscle is going to contract, it is going to stretch these ligaments, which are the suspensory ligaments which are attached to the lens, and this will make the lens more flat. When the ciliary muscles are going to relax, it is going to cause the suspensory ligaments to become much more loose, and the lens is going to become more convex. So there is more accommodation which is going to happen. So ciliary muscle, when it is going to contract, it is going to make the suspensory ligament loose, make the lens more convex. So you are accommodating. When the suspensory ligament, when the ciliary muscle is going to contract, the suspensory ligaments are become loose. So this will make the lens become more convex. You understand this?
How they will contract and will make it loose?
So again, when the ciliary muscle is going to contract, it is going to shorten up because it's a circular thing. So when it is going to contract, it is going to come down. So the suspensory ligaments will become loose. And as they will become loose, the lens will become more convex. When it is going to relax, the ligaments are stretched and the lens become flat.
But what is the direction of contraction?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's circular.
Yeah,
Okay. So when it is going to contract, the diameter is going to reduce. So the suspensory ligament will become loose, and as a result, the lens will become convex. When it is relaxed, the ligaments are stretched, and the lens is more flat. Clear? Yes. Yes. Here it is wrong. It's not covering the cornea. Anyways, what you are seeing, what we are talking about is the ciliary muscle. So when the ciliary muscle is going to contract, that is going to result in the suspensory ligament to become loose and the lens to become more convex. So accommodation happens when the lens is more convex. When you bring something close to your eye, you are accommodating, your lens is becoming more convex.
Your muscle is working.
Yeah. The other thing which is important here is that this ciliary body is also going to produce the aqueous humor. And this aqueous humor is going to pass from the posterior chamber of the eye, which is behind the iris and in front of the lens, through the pupil into the anterior chamber of the eye. So the ciliary body are going to produce the aqueous humor. This is going to pass from the posterior chamber of the eye through the pupil into the anterior chamber of the eye. Anterior chamber of the eye is lying between the iris and the cornea. And then this aqueous humor is going to drain from this canal of Schlemm, which are lying between at the junction of the iris with the cornea. So at the iridocorneal junction, you have this canal of Schlemm through which the aqueous humor is going to drain. So if you have the angle between the iris and the cornea narrow, then it would be difficult for this aqueous humor to drain into the canal of Schlemm.
Which angle?
This angle between the cornea and the iris is the iridocorneal angle at which this canal of Schlemm is lying. So if this angle is narrow, it would be difficult for the fluid to drain. and as a result you would have a raised intraocular pressure. The normal intraocular